Okay, so the next bit that we are going over is your infection control chapter. Why do you think infection control is important for a lash artist?
Because they can be like sent to the hospital. I mean, it's very important. I mean, what if something bad goes wrong?
Making sure that nothing bad goes wrong so you don't wind up in the hospital is a very good reason to know infection control.
Well, you are messing with the art bio.
Yes. You are messing with a very, very sensitive, it's actually like the most sensitive part of their body, and it's the thinnest skin on the body is on your eyelid. That also makes it very delicate. But yes. So we are going to explain infection control, describe federal and state regulatory agencies, recognize principles of infections, identify different pathogens, employ principles of actually prevention while following standards to protect yourself and your client, and then demonstrating safe work practices and safety precautions. So what do you think is the difference, because you have 4 main ways to do infection control. You have cleaning, sanitizing, disinfecting, and sterilizing. Those are your 4 main steps of infection control. So infection control refers to the method used to eliminate or reduce the transmission of infectious organisms from one individual to another, either through touching or indirect contact of the counter is dirty and I touched the counter, so now I am dirty. I used a dirty set of tweezers on my client, all of those types of things. So the way you prevent it is by cleaning, sanitizing, disinfecting, and sterilizing. So cleaning is the mechanical process of using soap, water, or detergent, and water to remove all visible dirt and debris. Visible dirt and debris is the very important part you need to take out of that sentence. So cleaning gets rid of the physical, I can see that there is dirt on those tweezers, debris, there's, dandruff or dust, those types of things that may cause germs. It also removes a very minimal amount of invisible debris that can interfere with your disinfection, but mainly cleaning is for visible debris. Sanitizing is a chemical process using chemical process for reducing the number of disease-causing germs on a surface. So this is like when you use hand sanitizer, and hand sanitizer actually has to dry. The process of it drying is what's killing the germs. So if you're like, oh yeah, I applied a little bit too much hand sanitizer, so now my hands are sopping wet, now I'm gonna go wipe them off with a towel, your hands aren't actually fully sanitized because you wiped it off before it dried. Once it's fully dried, that's when your hands are actually sanitized. Disinfecting is used for non-porous items that, for specifically on your products to destroy harmful organisms, bacteria, viruses, fungus. The only one that disinfecting doesn't kill is bacterial spores. So that is also a very important thing. Disinfecting does not get rid of spores on implements or environmental surfaces. Sterilizing is the process that destroys all microbial life, including spores. And that is done using an autoclave, generally in like a medical facility. Or there's a couple of your instruments that you'll have to get a sterilizing solution to put them in. So you have to clean everything before you can move on to the next 3 steps of sanitizing, disinfecting, or sterilizing. Depending on what happened to that item that you are cleaning will determine whether you sanitize it, disinfect it, or sterilize it. If it got blood on it, you're going to sterilize it. If it touched your client's skin but didn't get blood on it, you're going to disinfect it. If it was just sitting in the room, you're going to sanitize it. Does that make sense? And then feel free to use the chat bar as well to answer that question.
What question was that?
Did that make sense? So yes, first thing you do is clean it. Then you have to determine whether you sanitize it, disinfect it, or sterilize it. The 2 main agencies that you're going to come in contact with in regards to infection control will be OSHA and EPA. OSHA is your occupational, let me see if I make sure that I get this right. OSHA is the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. So these are the people that are in charge of handling, mixing, storing, disposing of any products, general safety in the workplace. So they are the ones that are determining what safety equipment you're using, what disinfectants you're using. All of that is picked by OSHA. And they say that you have to use a SDS. And an SDS is a safety data sheet. It is a 16-category standard format document required by OSHA for any chemical product that you have. The SDS will tell you what ingredients are in that product. They will tell you how to store that product, how to dispose of that product, how to handle that product if it catches on fire, if it gets in somebody's eye. Everything that you will ever need to know about that chemical is written on its safety data sheet. And it is required by law that that product have a safety data sheet and that you have that safety data sheet in your spa or available to you at the spa or Flash Studio. You can have it on the computer or you can actually have a hard copy. Does not really matter as long as you have it somewhere in the building. EPA is your Environmental Protection Agency. These are the ones that will actually register the products, disinfectants, anything like that that are used in the spa. So OSHA says you have to get a product approved by EPA. So they're the ones that are being like, yes, this product is good. That product is not good because it causes, instant cancer whenever you touch it. So you're not going to use that one. The Environmental Protection Agency is the one that determines what products you can and cannot use. So what does OSHA do? Who is OSHA in charge of? Yeah, who is OSHA in charge of? What do they do? Feel free to unmute yourselves or type it in the chat. Yes, so they are the Occupational Health and Safety Administration, Destiny. So they are the ones that decide how you are going to be safe at work. And then EPA decides what you are going to use while you are at work. You also have an EPA registration number that is found on the back of all of your products, mainly your chemicals. And that is what approves it through EPA. So you can type in that number on their website and it'll tell you everything about that product, whether it is actually approved or not by EPA, it has to have that number. Okay. So then you have the state regulatory agencies. These are the ones that actually determine whether or not you can have your license. So in the state of Texas, it is TDLR, the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation. These are the people that decide what are warnings, fines, what you get put on probation for, suspension. They're the people that can revoke your license. Is all decided by TDLR. So then you have laws and you have rules for your license. So the laws are written by both the federal and state, and they determine the scope of practice that your license covers. So as a lash artist license, you can apply eyelashes. You cannot apply wax, that type of thing. And they establish guidelines for regulatory agencies to make rules. The rules are, regulations are more specific than the laws. So the rules establish very specific standards and conduct for your industry and license. So some rules will change depending on what state you're in. Some will change on, a 2-year basis because that's what they're trying to determine. So once you get into the TDLR system, you're going to get a lot of emails about how they're changing this law or adjusting this to make it to where, oh, we upped the amount of bleach that is used in a blood exposure incident. Those are the rules. The law is you have to use a blood exposure incident grade disinfectant. The law or the rule is that X amount of bleach is in that disinfectant. So you have different modes of transmission. You have direct transmission and indirect transmission, as well as airborne transmission. Most of this is common knowledge, especially now with everything with COVID. But direct transmission is what we most commonly think of when you think of somebody getting sick. So it involves pathogens traveling through touching, kissing, coughing, sneezing, talking, warts, that type of thing. So you're like, oh, you know, this person kept coughing on me while in the subway and now I have a cough, that type of thing. Indirect transmission occurs with contact with an inanimate contaminated object. So this would be, I touched a doorknob, I sat on the subway chair, I used dirty tweezers. So anything in your environment that the pathogens will sit on. So like ringworm, MRSA, all of those come from indirect transmission. Airborne transmission and respiratory droplets are similar to what occurs with direct transmission, but it specifically is living in the respiratory tract and is expelled through coughing, sneezing, talking, anything like that, which is why with COVID you wear a mask. Airborne transmissions are smaller and hang on to the air longer, and respiratory droplets can be more effectively controlled with wearing masks. So COVID, influenza, those types of pathogens are airborne transmissions. So it's not just like the infection is in the air, the infection is in the air because somebody coughed or talked or something like that. On all of your disinfectants, there will be a section on the back of the bottle that tells you what that disinfectant is used for. So it will tell you a list of pathogens that it will be effective against. It will tell you its EPA registered number, what specifically it is used for. So if it says bactericidal, that means that it destroys bacteria. Virucidal destroys viruses. Fungicidal destroys molds and fungus. And then it'll also tell you the mixing and changing instructions on the back of the bottle as well. So that's, you dilute it with this much water. It has to be changed daily. It has to be changed once a week. All of that is written on the bottle. So you have bacteria, viruses, fungus, parasites, and biofilms. So you have to figure out which ones of those are contagious and commutable, which one of those are good, and which one of those are bad. So there's pathogenic bacteria and non-pathogenic bacteria. So pathogenic bacteria, those are bad bacteria. Non-pathogenic bacteria are the good ones. So that's why, like, you eat yogurt to help your digestion, you're actually building a fungus in your stomach. And that fungus is helping your digestion. So it's an important fungus to have. It's still a fungus, but it's a helpful one. So it's non-pathogenic. If it was a pathogenic fungus, you'd have something like athlete's foot. So that's actually causing damage to you. Does that make sense? So contamination is the presence or the reasonably anticipated presence of blood or other potentially infectious material on an item, surface, visible debris, such as like dust, hair, skin. Then it is contaminated. Decontamination is the removal of that substance off of your item. Diagnosis is is determining the nature of the disease, its symptoms, through a series of tests or questions. Federal regulations prohibit any diagnoses given by lash artists, estheticians, cosmetologists. If you are not a doctor, you cannot give a diagnosis. It is outside of your scope of practice, and they can actually take your license away. So make sure you never diagnose anybody with anything. And then germs is a very non-specific synonym for disease-producing bacteria, organisms, that type of thing. So it's just like a general term that doesn't actually mean anything. Occupational diseases are illnesses resulting from conditions associated with your job. So as lash artists, a common one is the fumes from the formaldehyde that is in lash glue causes some illnesses, headaches, that type of thing, because of the repeated prolonged exposure. So that would be what an occupational disease is. Parasitic diseases are diseases caused by parasites. So they live off of a host, such as lice, mites, ticks, those things. Those are all parasites because they cannot live without a host. So they eat off of an animal, a person, something like that. Pathologic disease are disease produced by organisms such as bacteria, fungus, parasites, all of those. And then if you have toxins, toxins are various poisonous substances produced by some microorganisms, mainly bacteria and viruses. So like I said, there are two different types of bacteria. There are non-pathogenic bacteria and pathogenic. Non-pathogenic are harmless, and there's actually more non-pathogenic bacteria than the bacteria, or pathogenic bacteria. So these ones are the ones that are good for you. There is a healthy amount of bacteria on your skin at any given moment. They protect you from other diseases. They build up your immune system. They're very, very useful. Pathogenic ones are the ones that you're always concerned about because they're the ones that are actually going to get you sick. So those are the ones that cause those diseases. You do need certain bacteria. Like we said earlier with the one that's in your stomach, it is important to have it. And then if you over clean or over sanitize, over disinfect, it actually makes the pathogenic bacteria stronger. So the people that like bleach their countertops every day, the bacteria in their house is actually stronger than the bacteria in the house of the person that bleaches their counters twice a month. Because the bacteria starts building up an immunity to the bleach, and then it becomes stronger and you can't get rid of it with bleach and you have to use a different more harsh chemical to kill that bacteria. So try not to over clean things either. It's important to clean things, but not over clean things, because otherwise that immunity will build up in that bacteria. Bacterial infections will include inflammation, pus, local infections. So like you'll think of it like with acne, and then systemic infections, which is what you think of when you have like a cold. So a local infection is only in one spot. I have a local infection of a boil on my hand or a wart on my hand. I have a systemic infection, which affects my entire body if I have a cold or a fever, something like that, because everything is affected by it. So bacteria will be like your Staphylococci, MRSA, this really long name here that I'm not going to try and pronounce. That's MRSA.
We're just going over chapter 1. I mean, it's not chapter 1, chapter 10, right? We're just going over chapter 10.
This is the infection control chapter.
Okay.
I think it might be chapter 10. I'm not sure where it is in your guys' books, actually. So those will be your bacteria. Then you have viruses. So viruses are a subparticle, and it infects and resides in the cells. So this one actually is in the cell, and it is attacking other cells. So bacteria will live on you, viruses live in you. There's not really a way to cure viruses. Generally, you just prevent them and try and contain them. That's why they don't really give you anything if you have like those 3-day colds or whatever. You can, all the medications that you're taking is to deal with the symptoms. It's not actually to deal with the cold. It's not killing any bacteria or anything like that. It's just, notice how when you read the bottle, it's like for cough, sneezing, congestion, all of that. Those are just symptoms of the actual virus. So there's not a way to cure viruses. You're only curing symptoms. So then you have your incubation period, which is how long it resides in the cells before it actually starts doing stuff. And then once it's done its incubation period, then you'll actually see the results of it. Generally, it's in about like a week to 2 weeks. And then that's why you're like, oh yeah, you know, I met Susie on Tuesday and she had a cold. And then, you know, next Tuesday you have a cold. And it's because of the cold that Susie had. Because it has that incubation period before it actually starts showing symptoms. So these ones will be like your herpes, all of those, HIVs, all of those are your viruses. Hepatitis, autoimmune disorders, bloodborne pathogens, mainly are your viruses. Fungus will include your mildew, T-Barbia, which is an infection of the beard hair. So generally you'll deal with it with like ingrown hairs, but it'll have like little pustules and it'll be red and inflamed. That's T-Barbia. T. capita is, or capitis, is when it's on the top of your head. It's the same exact thing as ingrown hairs with pus and irritation. And then ringworm is obviously, you'll see like the little red lines that are on their skin. And ringworm is very, very contagious. Parasites will include like your head lice, scabies, eyelash mites. Those are all parasites because they're little bugs that live on a host. They're very gross. And then biofilms, those are like the stuff that lives in your sink. So it's that, as you can see in the image right here, it kind of looks like there's toothpaste stuck around the rim of your sink. Those are biofilms. So they are colonies of microorganisms that adhere to environmental surfaces, as well as the human body. They're generally sticky and they're very hard to penetrate because they form this protective coating around themselves, and they group up together. So there are lots of different biofilms, and that's why you have to clean all your surfaces so that the biofilms can't grow on any of your sinks or anything like that. They're also very gross. So to employ principles of prevention, first you have to clean it. And then once it's clean, you can then disinfect it, sterilize it, or sanitize it, depending on what needs to actually happen with that surface. So you have soap and water with a nail brush to scrub your implements, an ultrasonic unit, chemical cleansers, which are like the thing that EPA determines. Ultrasonic units are, they kind of look like little microwaves, and they have like a little light that cleans your items. Proper hand washing, you should all be aware of because of COVID. So I don't really need to go over that. Only thing is nail technicians do not have a required length for their nails. Estheticians have to keep their nails short. Cosmetologists, if their nails are too long, they have to wear gloves. Lash artists don't have that. So just make sure that you clean underneath your nails with a nail brush really well, because that is where majority of your bacteria will reside on your hands. And it will not come off with sanitizer because it is stuck underneath your nails.
Did she stop talking? Okay.
Okay, we're back. I don't know what. Yes, antibacterial soaps, because again, if cleaning too much, you can actually cause those worse bacteria to grow. And then also making sure that when you wash your hands, you're using proper ones that can actually hydrate your hands, because washing too much can dry your skin, making it more susceptible to infection.
I have a question.
Mhm.
So when we like start, so what you're saying is like we should clean our tweezers first and then like sterilize it.
Mhm.
Okay. Do you suggest like that machine? Because I've seen like people use like that steam machine.
The steam machine is a good one. UV light sterilize or sanitizer is also a good option.
Mhm.
But the reason that you have to clean it beforehand is because it gets rid of the physical debris, and then that's when you can actually clean it to get rid of those pathogens and bacteria that are on it that you can't see. So that's why you have to do it twice.
So okay, so clean and then sterilize.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
And then so there's a lot of different disinfectants that you can use. And that one, you're really going to have to determine what you're trying to accomplish and how you plan on doing it. So some of them will have different mixing ratios, so how concentrated the chemical has to be. So some of them are really, really concentrated, so you'll need a lot of them. Some of them are really not concentrated, so you add a lot of water to them. They have different contact times, which means the product has to sit on the surface for X amount of time before it's actually finished cleaning it. So you'll have one that says, if you are trying to get rid of, fungus, leave it on for, 20 minutes. If you're trying to get rid of bacteria, leave it on for 5 minutes. And that is all written on the back of your bottles. The efficacy, again, that is what it says it will clean. And then whether it's multi-use tools, equipment. So the multi-use tools will be your tweezers. If you have those plastic lash brushes, those types of things, those are multi-use items because you can use them on multiple clients if you clean them properly. Single-use items will be like your mascara wands, cotton rounds, under eye pads. Those types of items are single-use items because you cannot disinfect them, so you cannot make sure they are clean for the next client. So those ones just get thrown away. Quats are quaternary aluminum compounds. They're disinfectants that are effective when used properly on non-porous items. They usually are used for disinfecting implements, and your implements will sit in them for about 10 minutes. And then they should be removed. That way they don't get any damage from sitting in them for too long. That's why they only sit in there for 10 minutes. These ones, again, anytime you are cleaning something, you have to clean it with soap and water, and then you would put it in the quats, because otherwise then your quats are useless because it has a hair in it. So now the entire thing is contaminated. So you wash it beforehand. That way you do not that way you do not contaminate your cleaning solution. If you contaminate it, then you have to dump it out and make a new one. So that's just a waste of your cleaning solution. Tuberculocidal disinfectants, those ones are used specifically to kill tuberculosis. And those ones are generally through the use of hospital disinfectants. But it is still a useful thing to possibly have in your salon / studio in case you will need it. Household bleach or sodium hychlorite is an effective disinfectant that has been used very commonly throughout any salon, spa / studio. And it is used as a disinfectant. And like you see on the screen, a 1 to 10 solution, so a 10% bleach solution, is generally what you'll use. It has to get changed out every 24 hours. And then obviously you want to avoid heat or light or anything like that, because that makes your disinfectant less potent. So those are also things to take into account on if you don't want to try and go through all these different disinfectants. Bleach is also a very safe solution to go with. Depending on what you're cleaning will determine how much bleach to how much water you use. And that I will go over with you more when we go over the blood exposure incident steps on how much bleach you have to use in that solution, as well as in your TDLR chapters. When you are doing a blood exposure incident step, I'm going to go over the, I think it's 10 steps that are used in a blood exposure incident step. So that would be, first you would tell your client, hey, you have a small cut on your forehead from the tweezers. I'm gonna go get some supplies to deal with that. You're going to sanitize your hands and put on gloves. Once you put on the gloves, then you're going to get your first aid kit and go back to your client. You'll apply pressure to the wound with either a gauze pad, cotton round, SD wipe, which are those little 4x4 squares. And you'll apply pressure to the wound for about 10 to 15 seconds or until the blood stops. Until the blood lessens, really. And then you will place those contaminated cotton rounds into a Ziploc bag. You will then wipe it with a antiseptic wipe or an antiseptic solution to disinfect it, and throw that contaminated wipe in that same Ziploc bag with the SD wipes that were contaminated. You'll then apply a Band-Aid to the cut. You'll clean your areas, anything that you touched, whether you touched the sink, the first aid kit, anything like that. You'll wipe it down with a bleach solution that is approved for blood or bodily fluid exposure incidents. So make sure that is written on your disinfectant that it says it is approved for blood exposure. Or a 10% bleach solution, which I believe is 1 cup and 3/4 of a cup of bleach to a gallon of water is a 10% bleach solution. And that is used for blood exposure incidents. And then once you clean everything up, you're going to remove your gloves. And when we go over this step for your exam, I'll show you how to remove them. But you're going to pinch the glove at the center, the palm of your hand, and pull it up. And then use 2 fingers and place it underneath your other glove and pull it up, making a little like pocket for the first glove. That way your hands don't touch the outside of your gloves. Then you'll place those gloves in that same Ziploc bag. So now anything that ever touched blood is in that one Ziploc bag. You'll close it up, and then you'll place that Ziploc bag in another one. So it's now double bagged, and then you'll throw it in a biohazard box. Let me see if I can find the biohazard box. Yes. So this box that you see on the screen right there, that is a biohazard box. So they are used for any blood or bodily fluid. And they get disposed of at a hospital or an approved facility. So these ones, your spa, salon, lash studio will have them. If you're making your own, you will have to purchase one. And it will give you a list of areas that you can dispose of them. Generally, the easiest is just the nearest hospital. But that's where you will dispose of any blood or bodily fluid incidents because of how easy it is to get those bloodborne pathogens and how dangerous those bloodborne pathogens are. That's why they have to be double bagged before you actually put them in anything. If your tweezers got blood on them or anything like that, you have to you have to sterilize them at that point before you can use them on another client. So we already talked about single-use and multi-use items and how to clean them. Porous items will include your towels, linens, capes, your sheets, anything like that. Those are porous. So they get washed in the washing machine with bleach. So that's why generally they're white. If they're not white, they're using a different disinfectant to clean it and sterilize it. But any of your sheets or anything like that need to be very deeply cleaned before you can use them for another client. So you can't have one client come in using the same sheets as the next client because that is cross-contamination.